All right, welcome back to another week of Protect You Radio / podcast. It's going to be another fun one. We've got Marion on with us this week from the Well-Armed Woman, and Ben Wilcox is joining us again this week. Ben, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am wonderful and just blessed to be around this whole crew. Mr. Travis Wilcox is back with us.
Hey.
Hey, and maybe we'll put some of his screenshots from his video and his beautiful body up tonight. We'll see. And I have Mr. Brian Sheetz with us tonight. I've been blessed to have Brian around and hang out with him and do some training with him. And I invited him in because I'm trying to do some highlighting of instructors around the region, the state, and nationally who maybe don't get a lot of coverage, but I think are doing some pretty cool things. And like I said, I got to meet Brian and do some training with him over the last couple of years and really kind of liking some of the stuff he's doing. Brian is the owner of Ballsitic Solutions. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes, sir.
And that's coming up quick. You're kicking that off as a brand newer this time of year, right? Is that
Yeah.
awesome?
We were with Valkyrie Defense. I kind of broke off and started doing my own thing, and we're starting up Ballsitic Solutions here. And
So just kind of, Brian, we're going to do some questions and answer with you, kind of get a feel for who you are and tell us a little bit about yourself, that type of stuff. And like I said, just trying to highlight some of the folks around the region who I think are doing some really good things. So Brian, tell us about some of the classes you teach. So one of the ones that always interested me, counter ambush concepts. Tell me a little bit about that.
oh, that's one of our flagship classes that we started teaching. It is probably what you would want to take the next step after your concealed carry class. Is kind of how we offered it. We get a lot of people come into the classes, say, this is the gun I want to carry, this is the holster that I want to carry, but then they never go really out and test that system. So this is a good area, a class where you can come back in and just make sure that whole system works. We basically start from the ground up. We start with fundamentals, and every class with fundamentals, and end every class with fundamentals. We also have a little bit of medical stuff inside there as well. Like I said, it's that next step above. Before, if you want to go on and take, one of these national instructors courses, this will be a good one to prime you up for it and get you ready to go.
So Brian, the medical side of things, I think this is something that a lot of people maybe don't follow up on enough. Now, I know Marion and the Well-Armed Woman are doing stuff like that, which is really nice. Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you not have an incident you stepped in with after taking Dark Angel medical?
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I'd kind of forgotten about it until you said the medical, and sorry to put you on the spot.
Did I. I tried to block that out. It was a weird night. No, I was actually at a shooting competition and just shooting bullseye with some guys, and a guy went to reholster his handgun after he was done shooting, and lit one off. It went into his thigh and ran vertically down his leg and exited his ankle.
Wow.
Ended up having to tourniquet him. No one else there, that was the thing, no one else there had any medical training or anything like that. I was kind of the sole guy, and I was actually walking to my truck because I had already finished shooting my last round, or my last portion of the shoot. So I was already like on my way home to leave, and I was just sitting in my truck answering a couple text messages I received, and they come back and someone got me, and I came back with my med bag, but no one else there had any medical training. No one else had a tourniquet. No one else had compression bandages. All they had was just hopes and prayers that I didn't leave yet. So, yeah, just went to reholster. I think I think the shoot was actually over, and they were just kind of clinking around just to throw some more rounds downrange after everything was all said and done. And, yeah, accidents happen. It was like 2 weeks before that when I told them all, like, hey, if you guys ever need anything, my med bag's always over here in the front pocket of my range bag. And they're like, we've been shooting for 60 years. We never have to worry. We've never had anything else happen.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
Kills.
Yeah.
Complacency kills. Yep.
What was that?
Week after that, they decided to let me teach them a real quick medical class, and then they all went and bought tourniquets and hemostatic agents and compression bandages.
I said complacency kills, John.
Oh yeah. Oh, isn't that terrible? It absolutely is. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, before probably 3 or 4 years ago, I did most of my stuff where my med kit was in a bag, probably off to the side somewhere. And now I carry it right on me most of the time. It's
I keep my medical stuff always in my shoot bag. I have 3 different like IFAKs that I always keep on me. One in the car, one in the trunk, one in my range bag, whatever I'm going to be using that day. And I actually have an extra one I just got for my belt. Or my gun belt. So
yeah, that's great. And I'm putting a plug in for 3V Gear. I've been watching some of their stuff, and I just bought like 4 of their just the bags and stuffed them with my own stuff, but I replicated an IFAC basically. So
Yeah.
I've got them
You know,
everywhere.
it's scary that you said that nobody had any medical training. I mean, I'm not medically versed in any way, shape, or form, and I'm thankful. You know, in the Marine Corps, they taught us, the triple C's, the combat casualty
CCC.
care,
Yep.
and just that little bit of knowledge was more than enough to at least assess a situation and get them stabilized enough to get them to help.
That's exactly. I mean, all you need to do is sustain the person until the professionals arrive with bigger and better equipment. And that's exactly what all the medical classes I've taken. That's what I've learned, and that's all I could do at the time. I did exactly what care I assessed and what I assumed he needed and gave it to him, and they told me at the end of it, "You saved that guy's life," and I'm like, "Well, hopefully he learned a lesson too." So.
Yeah.
That's
I think it's
awesome.
even scarier that people, they carry the tourniquets on their belts for the cool factor and have no idea how to use them.
Yeah. Well,
Mary-
I mean, every
Mary-
class we teach, it doesn't matter if it's concealed carry class, it's our sights and triggers class, or if it's our CAC class, we always have a medical portion inside there, because we tell people you're more than likely to get hit head on by a drunk driver or see someone get hit head on by a drunk driver on your way home from this class than you are to ever have to use your handgun in self-defense. So in the end, what's more important? Is it this next 15 minutes I'm going to show you how to use these tourniquets and compression bandages and hemostatic agents, or is it the other 8 hours of the class that you're going to sit here and listen to me talk about firearms? Which one is going to save a life? More than likely to save a life, and a lot of people agree. And we've had tons of people leave the class and send us pictures of the med kit they bought, and that's what's great. I love it.
See, that's really important, though. I'm glad we touched on that and you brought up that example, because one of the things that I feel is lacking on instructor training is the medical side of it. I mean, everybody wants to shoot, they want to go out and do that, but I think an instructor or someone needs to be proficient in that, and I just don't think that's prevalent out there as much anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's like I tell people, it's not sexy to take pictures of tourniquets and stuff and med kits and stuff like that, and post them online. It's all about the gun and the cool stuff you're doing with the gun, but but you're really going to save that life with that medical kit.
Right.
Yeah. Marion, don't you, well-armed woman, you guys have done some med classes, right?
Yes, and I want to do another one, but we're not totally back to where we can do that yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure. A lot of people aren't wanting to press on each other and do stuff and apply tourniquets up close and personal.
Yeah,
So, and Marion, are you guys doing Stop the Bleed? Is that what you've been using?
that's who we're going to use, yeah.
Okay.
And then we also had, my husband and I went to one of the Ohio Buckeyes courses, which was really good.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah,
And
they do some
Candy is
cool-
on the line, I think.
What?
I think
Candy,
she-
Candy, are you there? Get out of here.
I am here. I've been here.
Ah, yes!
Sweetheart.
Travis, put your shirt back on. Brian, Candy is also part of the Well-Armed Woman, and she's quite a advocate for the shooting sports and self-defense, and trains up all the time. And she's awesome. So that's why we have her on the show as often as possible. And I think she'll have fun with you tonight and enjoy. So Candy, just catch you up. Well, it sounds like you've been listening in. I missed that you popped in. So awesome. Thanks for being here again.
I came in really, really quiet because I'm really, really sore because I took a shotgun class this weekend.
Oh.
And I am so sorry. My chest hurts. My shoulder hurts. My cheek hurts. I'm not smiling at anybody.
I got you, boo.
I'm gonna go disconnect his internet. I'll be back.
I know, right? You go hook me up, baby.
Are you saying you're gonna disconnect his AOL dial-up?
It's funny. I can say that I remember that.
Oh yeah,
I'm old enough.
Yeah.
I know, right? Dee-dee-dee-dee.
So Brian, we talked about counter ambush. You also teach a class called Sights and Triggers, right? What's that all about?
Yep, that's our fundamentals course, and that's actually one of the more rewarding classes. I enjoy teaching it a lot. It's one I wrote. I just went through and over the years of just trying to perfect being a handgun shooter. I took all the drills that I loved, and then I thought that pushed me to be a better shooter, and put all these drills into one class, and that I can give. It's a 3 to 4 hour class. We do some games, we do some stuff like that. There's some partner work in it, but it's only 150 rounds. But at the beginning of the day, we shoot one target at 7 yards, and then at the end of the day, we shoot another target at 7 yards, and then we like to compare at the end of the day what those targets look like. And 99% of the time, everyone's targets are a lot better grouping, and that's what we love. And then those people can take those take those drills that you learn at that class, and you can go and you can do them yourself. And we kind of take it from all the way down to like a macro level on what it really takes to perfect shooting a handgun.
That's
And
great.
people seem to love it.
Fundamentals, crazy concept.
What are your
right.
what are your class prices? Like how much are they, and when do you run them?
Well, right now we were doing the sights and triggers class is $100. And like I said, 3 to 4 hour class, and then you have our counter-ambush concepts was $125. We try to keep everything as affordable as possible, because we want people to take training.
That's a hell of a lot better than most places.
Yeah.
$400 or $500.
Right.
Yeah, and
That's awesome.
kind of what we're out here to try to make not just better armed citizens, but more informed armed
Proficient.
citizens. Yeah,
But
and that's
the difference between a real class that's going to teach fundamentals up to the tactical classes that you see a lot of people that will advertise. You can now do a ninja roll and go through an armored personnel carrier with this, and it's nice to hear that there's classes like that out there that still can cater to the fundamentals, after a CCW course or something like that you can follow up on versus, tactical classes that no one's ever going to use.
You're just mad because if you ninja rolled, you'd break.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I've been to those tactical classes, and it's almost intimidating. I mean, if you see someone standing there and decked out from 5'11" from head to toe, you're kind of walking in there. It's like, all right, well,
Yeah.
they look like it walked out of the magazine, and you're probably going to see me wear a pair of cargo shorts and a t-shirt. That's how I roll.
There you go.
Because we teach everybody. We don't teach just 25-year-old guys who
Nice.
Yeah, and that's what we want to make sure people know, that if you're a 40 or 50-year-old lady who's a little bit intimidated and not real sure about your skills yet, you can still come to the class, and that's what we want to make sure that they get training also. It's not just the 25-year-olds that make it look good.
So kind of along those lines, Brian, of teaching kind of a wide variety, and I may forget the name. It's Faster Saves Lives, right? Is that not the teacher prep thing? And you guys were kind of involved in getting people prepped for that course, right?
Yeah. So that's we got into that about 3 or 4 years ago. That got kind of dropped in our laps because around Coshocton area we have 3 schools, 3 schools and a career center, and 2 of the school districts wanted to arm staff members, and also the career center did. And so the sheriff's office brought us in, and we started working closely with them. So then we had to go get with the faster program and see what we needed to do in order to get, and I kind of led the charge because I was really, my son was going to be in school, in the next couple of years, and I, would like to know how the training went and what I could do to help. And so basically we got in, and they really liked the way we taught and what we did to help out. And so from that point on, they said, all right, we're having a problem with a lot of teachers or staff members coming into classes that they fail. They're having a decent fail rate, just they couldn't make it through the primer course. I'm sorry, they couldn't make it through the Faster 1 course without a fail. And so they brought us in and said, you guys are doing a great job. We see the students you have coming through, or you had come through, they did great. Is there any way that you guys could, start helping us out and teaching primer course? So now primer courses are mandatory before you go to a faster class. And since we started doing the primer courses, we have not had a student fail going through now. So yeah, and again, it goes right back to the fundamentals. It's just basically what we're doing is taking these staff members and getting them to where when they jump into that faster class, they're treading water instead of sinking, because that's exactly what was happening. They were going in way over their head. And now they got a little more time behind the gun, getting in there. They understand the fundamentals, and they understand what makes a good concealed carry system, meaning like the belt, the holster, the gun, the magazines, how, where, and when, and what we're going to do to carry those guns and deploy them and stuff like that. And that's what we do in that primer class. It's about an 8-hour class, and it is by the end of the day, people are mentally wiped out. I almost kind of call it critical thinking with a handgun. But we get the fundamentals out and get them going. And like I said, we haven't had anybody fail that's coming through our primer course and went on the faster yet. So we're pretty proud of that.
Good stuff.
We enjoy it's very rewarding. It's one of those things where we love, because we know in the end it's going to mean safer schools and safer kids. So
Oh my
like
gosh,
I said,
yes.
Yes.
Those classes are amazing. They not only help establish and solidify the skills, they start working on that mindset.
Exactly.
And that mindset is so critical to that faster success, because I know that when we do our foundation classes, we have to get out of their mind that they're shooting at paper. We have to get into their mind that you're defending your children.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
your primary goal. You are stopping that bad guy from hurting your children. And once it's so cool when you can see when the switch is flipped.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what
when
I
that
mean?
light bulb comes on and
When that
okay,
light
now I
bulb comes
understand.
on. Yes. Now I get it, because you've been telling them all day, be forward aggressive, be this, be that. And when that light bulb comes on, it's like a thing of beauty right before you, because you know it when you see it.
Oh
And
yeah,
you're
you can
like,
see the look
okay,
on the
they're
student's
getting it.
face when they actually understand what they're picking up what you're putting down finally. Like,
Yes.
oh, okay, now I get it.
Now I get it. Okay, now I see. And oh my gosh, yes, faster. I love it. And it's cool to finally meet you and know that you're a part of this awesome thing that we do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So
One of
Marion,
my questions.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm sorry. One of my questions that I have, and I don't know if it's just geographical or what, but one of the challenges I would see by teaching schools and stuff like that is, most of your educators are gigantic libtards. And is it different down in your area where you don't see as much of the SJWs and libtards that are total anti-gun?
Yeah, down here we're more of a rural farming area, pretty conservative. You don't have we don't get a lot of pushback there, but I've also taught schools from like the Tuscarawas area, and they were expecting some pushback. But once they put it in the paper, put it out as their, like what they'll usually do is just make a press release and leave it at that. They were expecting a lot of pushback. They received none, and they only actually received positive response from it. So, we also help them with the wording and stuff like that whenever it comes to things like that. I try to stay as much off that as possible. I just like to do the gun stuff. I don't need to do the politics, but if I have to, I've stepped in and had to help with some of that stuff too. And but it's like I say, they were expecting a lot of pushback, but I think in this area down here, they're only seeing positive responses. There's actually one school district in our area, in Coshocton County area, that does not do it, and they're getting just every year more and more pressure to do it. So
wow, okay. I didn't know if it was demographic. When you start thinking about that stuff around the nation and so forth, with the gigantic push that it's an agenda that's taught nowadays. I hear a lot more positive coming from the rural areas than I do your cities or that, and it's kind of disheartening when you hear a lot of that, where people are willing to go in and train, and then you've got Mary Jane social justice warrior that doesn't believe in that stuff, that ruins it for everybody.
Yeah, and it's yeah, I agree. It can ruin it. I'm trying to be political.
We're all holding our tongues. I know.
Yeah, but I come from an area where we still get the first day of guns of deer season off.
That's beautiful.
Off. So it's very well received here. I'm not seeing anything negative coming through.
You're the president of Coshocton Gun Club. Tell us about your club and your duties, please.
I'm just the director. That's very hands-off-ish.
He's
I'm
the
not
director,
important
John.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You're the best.
God, terrible question.
No, it's the terrible interviewer.
I prefer
You
to
made
be the
him.
director. It's way more hands-off, and I can step back. The only other kicker, it's fun. I enjoy it. I like to be active in anything that I'm associated with. I try to help out as much as I can. The director's position is pretty good for me because it's not as involved. Plus, a lot of people look at me and they're like, he can't be the director. He doesn't have a bunch of gray hair. So I kind of fly under the radar a little bit. But then when they figure it out, though, I get a lot I get a lot of complaints tossed at me and stuff like that, and it's always it's a babysitting job for 60 and 70-year-olds. It's kind of what it boils down to.
Brian, but you guys are doing a lot of educate. Like you guys run apple seeds and stuff too, right?
Yes, and that's one of the things that when I became director up there, I wanted to do more open shoots to the public and stuff like that. Shotgun Gun Club is a gym that no one knows about. That's one of the crazy things. We have a 25-yard indoor shooting range. We have a 200-yard outdoor rifle. We have a 50-yard outdoor rifle and pistol. We have 2 skeet and trap areas. There's so much potential there. And we have 80 acres, and I'm trying to get funds to put in new ranges and training ranges and stuff like that, trying to get it built up because I know the potential it has. But it's one of those things where this is the way we've always done it. Well, now the younger kids are coming along, and we're starting to band together and saying, well, maybe we should do things a little differently. The times are changing, boys. So.
Just like Antifa. Good job.
Yeah, I know, right? That's how they look at us, I'm sure.
Brian, what gun are you carrying and why?
Oh, I carry a Glock 19. I've carried about everything. I'm always one of the ones that I like gear. I really do. And I've done everything from Walther PPQs to Smith and Wesson. I even just carried revolver for a little while, just because if you're gonna have someone show up to a class with a revolver, you better be able to teach them how to shoot it. I'm one of those guys. So I'm always out there changing stuff around, and but I've always come right back to the Glock 19 and settled right on it. So that's.
What about holster and belt?
I'm running an Aries Gear belt. Holster is Raven concealment. Inside appendix, it's appendix carry. That's where I carry. I'm running an RMR on top of the Glock. I've been running RMR for about 4 years now. I really actually love it. I realized a long time ago that was probably going to be the future, and that we were going to see people showing up in classes with these red dots on their guns, and you better know how to be able to teach it. And I went and bought it, threw it on there, and there's a learning curve to shooting an RMR. John was the one who was like, oh, if you're going to do that, you need to read this really good book. And so gave me a title of a book, and I picked it up, and it was, from there I was kind of intrigued, and I went wild. And so after I got through that learning curve, it's really fun. I love shooting with the RMR. So
cool.
So Brian, what are your thoughts on like cross training, like hand-to-hand stuff and with firearms, things like that?
Yeah, gun. Yeah, the gun is the answer to a very, very small set of problems, and that's what I tell it. There's that old adage that if you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So why wouldn't you give yourself more options for problem-solving situations that don't require a handgun? Even if it's just verbal skills of being able to de-escalate and stuff like that. But hand-to-hand stuff, absolutely. There's a lot. Sometimes I don't carry my gun with me when I go places, but you know what? I always have my hands with me. So, it's one of those things. I know a guy who teaches some pretty decent edge weapons courses. If you want his name, His name's John McCreary.
I was like, who are you? I was like, who are you promoting?
you dummy.
I was like, I'm interested. Who is this guy? I need to follow him.
Hey, I've seen John firsthand. Hey,
with an edge weapon. You never pulled.
No, not an edge weapon. Just with the hands, man. Listen, John's seen me. I'm good with my hands.
Holy cow! Yep, I've seen him. Listen, he is great with his hands. He can't count to 3, but he's great with his hands.
That was awesome, and you freaking know it.
So Brian, we were working together as door security one night, and this guy would not leave the doorway. And I said, "Dude, I'm giving you the count of 3 to get out of the door." I got 1, 2, and here comes Superman over the top. Bang! Hits him with a Superman punch. I thought the guy was gonna crumple like toilet paper, and just a night. What a night. Yes. As the manager of the club said, I saw Ben's ass more time in a week than I saw yours in 5 years, John. Meaning he had somebody on the ground beating him.
Nice.
In all fairness, though.
Yes.
It's not like I went and started it.
No, I agree. You handled your shit. Let's put it that way.
Who are some instructors in schools that you follow?
I really like the guys that are pushing the science. Like that's always, I like fact-based stuff. I don't like theory.
Yeah.
one of the best classes I took. That it was. I mean, if when I was in school, if they would have had a science class like this, I would have probably paid a lot more attention. But Will Petty, his BCQB course and then the ballistics portion of that course is fantastic. I think he's kind of the leading edge right now when it comes to science and fighting in and around a vehicle, or just what bullets do inside and around vehicles. It was amazing. That was an amazing class. When it comes to RMR stuff, or like the red dot stuff, I really like what Aaron Cowan's doing. He wrote a white paper about 2 years ago that I think everyone should probably, if you're going to carry an RMR, read that. But he does a lot of testing with, if there's a new red dot that comes out on the market, he's got it on a gun and he's shooting it, and he's putting a lot of rounds down range, and like I said, everything's fact-based and it's science. So that's what I really follow. That's what I look for.
That's a great answer.
So Brian, if people want to get a hold of you and do some training with you, what's the best way for people to catch you and reach you?
No, you guys can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, Brian Sheetz. Just search me, shoot me a message. You send me a friend request. Heck, I don't even care. I'm pretty open. My life's pretty boring. I do a lot of hunting and fishing and kayaking. That's pretty much my thing right now. So, taking trips, and you might see some pretty photos every now and then. Might get one of my ugly face every now and then too, but yeah, just follow me on those platforms. You can find me there.
Well, Brian, you are more than welcome to hang with us. If you got to go, I totally understand, but we're going to touch on a couple other articles and things, so you're more than welcome to hang.
I can hang out for a little while. I'm good.
All right. So the first one I want to jump on is, so it came from, came from The Truth About Guns. Yeah. So it came out of an article, The Truth About Guns, and National Shooting Sports Foundation also had it on their website. And they're basically talking about our friends at every town for gun safety. So they're now claiming the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms as a loophole that needs to be fixed. So this gets into, of course, they don't believe in the right to bear arms, but they're also talking about open carry as not being part of the Constitution, and they're calling that as a loophole to the Second Amendment. They call it fear mongering. All of us white supremacists out there carrying guns are terrifying the general public. Any thoughts on this one?
I mean, I guess they didn't read the part where "shall not be infringed" is put in.
Well, it goes to the old-fashioned thing, and I got to tell you. It goes to the old-fashioned thing when the Constitution was written. Everybody knows this. They didn't have weapons like we have nowadays, the freedom of speech and so forth. And I had this argument with a lefty the other day where they said kind of the same thing. And I told him, I said, well, it also says the right to peacefully assemble. I said, when are we going to fix that loophole and allow us to start hunting down these protesters? And she didn't have an answer for it. She's like, well, I said, no, it says peacefully assemble. I said, that's not happening right now. There's rioting and looting going on, and they're claiming it's protesting. I said, that's a loophole. When are you going to fix it? I got blocked. But, I mean, things like that, when you start thinking of when these things were written, a lot has changed. You look at all the bills of rights that are there, and I don't think there are any loopholes. I think it's exactly what it says. The right to bear arms and shall not be infringed. They had military-grade weapons back when it was written. I mean, that's what Britain wanted to confiscate. So I have a hard time understanding if that's the case. I also told her you'd still be in a horse and wagon or walking down a trail, and they have nothing against that. They can't argue it. And I think they're going to continue to attack the Second Amendment because that is the only amendment right now that is keeping the government from 100% control of the populace, whether it's left, right, or whatever. That's the most dangerous amendment out there because of the power that it has.
I think one of my favorite things is if they say if the Second Amendment doesn't apply to the rifles today, then your cell phones and TVs and stuff like that don't apply to your First Amendment.
That's right. Use a printing press.
Yep. Right. Get a quill. Get a deal with the Pony Express, and come write your comment to me in person.
Bingo. Mary and Candy, any thoughts on this shenanigans?
No, we're still laughing. That was awesome. That was awesome. I love how they pick and choose what applies and what doesn't
Yep.
apply. It's like, oh, for
Right.
the love of crying out. And that's
Well,
such BS.
Yeah, it comes into equal rights. Like you can't pick and choose what rights you want and what you don't want. Like you either get them all or nothing. So
There
I
you
mean,
go.
as touchy as this subject is, and a lot of friends of mine that are feminists, things like that, and I have a lot of liberal friends, and they're like, we want equal rights for women and men. And I'm like, well, I don't know what rights they don't have that we have. And then they talk about the wage gap and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, I'm going to bring up the military. When I was in the military, we were in a corrections field, an MP field. The women got paid the exact same I did, as the same rank as I was. It depended on how long you'd been in, what rank you were, obviously, and it's all the same across the board. But they didn't have to do half the stuff we did. So it comes into that. So it's like they equality needs to be equal everywhere. So you can't just sit there and be like, I don't want this amendment and this amendment. So dumb.
So the last couple
they
weeks,
can't have it both ways. They can't have it as a living document and a non-living document at the same time, and they try.
They can if
Right.
it's their agenda.
They need to remember why it was made. The reasoning for the Declaration of Independence, our Bill of Rights, things like that. The Constitution.
They don't
Are you
get
getting-
history.
You getting ready to burn down a Starbucks, Ben?
No, it's one of those things. I think Dave Chappelle said it the best. One of my favorite comedians. He's like, the First Amendment's there for you to say whatever you want, because that's your thing there. The second one's just in case the first one doesn't work out.
Yep.
Yeah.
In case they didn't listen the first time.
Exactly.
So a lot of this came out of this article, and Everytown was having fits over that whole thing in Virginia. So this is kind of what keyed this article, and them with the open carry being this evil loophole. And then you turn around, and there was the open carry march in Tulsa when Trump was there. It was by African Americans, not a peep. The BLM guys, when they were in Stone Mountain, that was an open carry protest. Not a peep there. Now, right. I giggled a little bit because a lot of white people in that area freaked out because there were black people carrying guns openly. I'm like, all right, guys, you can't have it both ways. You can't be against them to open carry and only you get to carry, because then we're back to what we were talking about, racism and gun control 2 weeks ago. Listen, if you're going to tell black people they can't carry guns openly, then you can't carry guns openly. Same thing on our side. You can't have it both ways, kids.
But don't approach my vehicle with a fully loaded AK-47 and tell me I need to pay reparations.
That's where it crossed the line.
Yeah.
Had they not done that,
I'm going to give you reparations one round at a time.
Jesus.
Well, I mean, technically, what do you look at the Castle Doctrine in that aspect? That's a threat. I mean, that's something that could justify lethal force. Somebody coming up with a firearm trying to tell you to give money and stuff. Your vehicle's covered under, when you're in your car, the Castle Doctrine covers that. So it's like, it's very dangerous that you go and do stupid stuff like that. Again, like Brian, you're bringing up earlier, right to a peaceful assembly and protest.
Yep.
Don't use your firearms to intimidate. And that, again, it goes on both sides too.
Yep,
Right.
Exactly. And I could make an argument the guys who stormed the state house in Michigan and screaming at police and stuff and politicians, that could have been seen as a threat, but that didn't get much pushback on, I'll say conservative gun owner sides too much. And it was like, okay, guys, there's a balance here. You got to figure that out. And when does it become a threat? And when are you peacefully assembling? So yeah, a lot of wackiness going on these days. So I just
storm the White House and see what happens.
Well, we saw, those guys got the crap kicked out of them,
they got more guns there than anybody knows what to do with.
Yeah.
People would start dropping.
Yeah.
Dude, there was miniguns on the roof coming out of like little birdhouses and stuff when that was going on.
Yeah, I guarantee that would be a bloodbath. So, and I think that's what people need to be careful of. It's some of this open carry stuff it's awesome, it's legal, but at some point, people are in these protests are starting to shoot at people. And it's like somebody's going to start a shooting war. And this is all hell's going to break loose. So, yeah, we've got some responsibility to watch what happens and responsibility to protect ourselves. So it's a fine line there.
Yeah, he muted
us. He wants out.
He's running. He's like, I've had enough of Benjamin Bryce Wilcox sending me messages. I want to. Yeah,
sorry about that. I dropped it. I hit the wrong button.
That's right.
I can't remember what I was saying now. I'm sorry.
So we're talking about a fine line between demonstrating and protesting.
Okay. There's that fine line. Like I tell people, you got to learn that your gun or I just view my gun. It's not a political prop. You know, I
Nice.
exercise my rights and do that stuff like that, but I don't use it as a political prop to walk out there and say, you know, this is how I'm going to win people on my side by flashing this thing around. I can't get behind that. So
I agree 100% with that. I'm not going to go out there and open carry my 50 Beowulf and walk around and say, hey, look at me, versus, you know, I can get my point across verbally just as easy.
No, you'll just carry two 1911s in a belly band and your pants will fall down.
Yeah, that happens. That actually happens, just so you know.
I'm literally sitting there and I'm just like, you're carrying two full-size 1911s. He's like, hell yeah. And I'm, all right, man, you do you.
They were concealed.
I can't be mad. I can't. One was a "We the People." I mean, hell, I'm as American as you can get.
That's right. And I carried that AR-15 pistol in my jacket one time just for giggles. And I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, "Cause I can."
Yeah, but you weren't carrying it out in the public where everyone could see it. You know,
I wasn't.
You had it underneath your jacket, and it was, you know, like I said,
it was a test run just for giggles. Yep. No.
Exactly.
I'm not a huge open carry guy, and the open carry protests and stuff. I'm not against them, but it's just not one of those things. I don't like scaring the crap out of like the soccer mom walking by with her kids, because you're not going to win friends. You hit this, you're not going to win friends that way. I'm sorry.
Because I don't want to be a target.
Well, that's the other thing. I know a lot of my students are like, "Oh, I'm going to open carry." I was like, "You haven't dealt with a true psychopath, because a true psychopath will walk up, punch you in the face, and steal your gun. They are not going to run away scared."
Absolutely.
Yep.
I think one of the scariest open carries I've ever seen was this guy who was in Walmart, and I'm thinking my son Michael was with me that day, and the guy's open carrying a Glock 19, and he's not paying jack's worth of attention about what's going on around him. You could just tell he's one of them, hey, I can open carry, so I'm gonna
Oh my God.
So
no situational awareness.
I know, right? So I told, and I think it was Michael, but I said, let's see how close can I get to him. And this was just me, quote unquote, shopping. I got right next to this dude, and knowing what I know, I could have easily, because I was close enough to see his retention holder where I would have to grab it, which it wasn't a retention holder. It was a holder. I could see it was a standard holster. I'm like, no retention, no nothing. Are you kidding me? So I'm thinking through my head, how can I grab this guy, yank him around, and have his 19 in my hand before he even knows it?
Nice.
And I got close enough to be able to do that. And the guy had no idea. And I'm just like, really? And you are open carrying. Oh my God.
There is video after video out there.
It comes down to an education issue at that point. What you're saying with that guy, he doesn't understand. He's one of those guys who says, I have a gun. What do I have to be afraid of?
Yes.
Exactly. And that's as far as
a lot to be afraid of.
I know. What we have to be afraid of is him having a gun. That's what we have to be afraid of.
And he's not going, and that's where education comes in, and trying to get people to understand that education is the only way to get these people better, or to understand that it's not about just carrying a gun. And and that's where, as gun enthusiasts and people in the industry, it's our job to try to get people to go take more classes so they can become more knowledgeable and realize that's not.
I hate to say it, but guys like that are guys that sometimes, I don't care how much education you try to give them, it's just not going to sink in.
No,
it's just like
not.
Teaching people how to shoot. Like, I mean, you can help them all you want, but unless they want to listen and learn, then it's okay. Have fun.
I get it. Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know who said it best. I know it wasn't Ben because he's an idiot, but it was about the attention it's there that you get on an open carry, whether it's a pistol or, you're open carrying your AR or something. The attention you get from others, like a psychopath or someone that didn't carry in and wants to shoot up a Walmart or whatever, they can easily take that. Or if there is something that's going to happen and people are like, or, a couple people got together, going to rob the place, they're like, hey, that dude's open carry. You're the first one to go.
You're a target.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. You're correct.
I mean, yeah.
So kind of an educational, and this is kind of a big jump, but so I want to talk a little bit about when you guys are at the range. Do you guys have a favorite drill you like doing, or is there, training versus shooting, or do you guys mostly just go and shoot, or do you have What are you guys doing when you go? What
I'm usually reading the rules to everybody repeatedly. Stopping.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh, I do it. I've done it several times. I have stopped a range full of about 20 to 30 people, and I have sat them in a school circle and read the rules and regulations to them because they are too stupid to understand what they're doing wrong. And they repeatedly do it after being told, hey, I don't know how you're aiming at the top of our ceiling right now, but you should stop doing that.
So
I'm just
Ben,
aiming at the target.
Yeah.
No, you're aiming straight up. You're dumb.
So Ben, when you're out training and shooting, is there certain drills you like doing, or how do you spend your time when you're on a range?
So like our range is pretty strict on what we're allowed to do, what we can't do. We can't do holster draws, but like
Right.
in the mornings and stuff, we go shooting before the range opens, and I like to do a lot of holster draws either from concealment or outside. So we have my buddy Trevor that comes up, and we usually put our flax on. We gear up
Nice.
just to have everything on there, and we do just basic drills like two to the chest, one to the head, reloads. You do 3 mags and everything like that, and then you go from there. You know, just to make sure you're kind of able to pull your firearm, just keep targets, everything like that. And we move it out back and forth. But for the instance at the range of ours, I mean, it's not we don't get to do as much as outdoor ranges will allow.
Sure.
I go to my buddy Austin's. My dad knows Austin Owens. He has a really nice place that we go out like in a gorge, and he has steel targets, and we'll do shoots. We did like EDC shoots the other day, and I got a new gun to carry, so I wanted to practice with it, and because it was new to me, it was hammer fired. I never carried a hammer fired gun before, and I never carried this certain type of gun. And so we went out and we practiced, having to go back to it. Yeah, I got a CZ Rammy, so and I love it. It's a great gun, but it's a 1911 style, safety on, hammer back. And if you want to put the hammer forward, you can still shoot double action, but you're pulling the trigger to put the hammer forward. So it's a little nerve wracking in that aspect when you're not used to it. But we have our back to the target. We turn, we put 2 shots on place, and then we run to cover and take 2 more shots. Things like that. Just being proficient, being able to like get your eye on your target, get your gun on your target, things like that.
Nice. Marion, what are you working on when you go and teaching some of the ladies at Well Armed Woman?
When we go out to KC, Candy keeps us pretty busy.
Shocking. So what kind of work you guys doing out there?
It depends on the day, honestly. Do you mind if I talk, Marion?
Go for it.
Awesome. It honestly depends on the day. The COVID has kind of been a mixed blessing for us because we have some older ladies who are very content to shoot that piece of paper that's out at 5 yards or 7 yards. They're very content with that. And, you get the bam, bam, that type thing. And then it's kind of like, okay, so we are not training. We're just shooting. Got it.
I thought you were watching me at the range.
Right. And the ones who want to do that, that's okay. Because you're getting comfortable with your firearm. You're feeling a bit more relaxed. That's okay. But for those who want more, we've been able to expand our offerings out at KC's because it's an outside range and we can move, we can use barricades and stuff like that. Like our last meeting, we were shooting on steel, and many of the women had never shot on steel before, which explained why they looked at me like I was crazy when I was standing there drooling, telling them we were going to be shooting on steel. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're shooting on steel today. You guys don't even know, because I love shooting on steel.
Yeah,
so we got the ladies out there, and for me, the cool thing about shooting on the steel was it pushed them. It pushed their boundaries because they had the reassurance of that ting. And they realized, oh my gosh, I can hit that torso-sized target from 30 feet away, 40 feet away, 50 feet away, something they would never have thought they could do.
Right.
And it was just so awesome. So I love that we're outside with them now. I wish we could stay outside because it just gives us so much more. But the inside range is good too. We kind of work with what we work with.
With what we have.
Yep, with what we have.
Yeah, it's Brian. Some of the stuff what are some of your favorite drills?
I like what Candy said. It gets people, push them out of their comfort zone and stuff like that. We do a couple of different things. It's very rare that I get to the range by myself to work on anything, or with me and just the assistant instructors. So whenever we do, we usually go with a plan. But what I always like to do, and I've done this ever since I even started shooting, I always make sure I shoot a certain standard. And I shoot it consistently over and over again, so I can go back and look and say, okay, here's what I shot this drill with, or this qualification with, and then and I was able to compare it to all the other times I shot before. Am I getting better? Am I getting worse? What stages did I do worse on? What stage did I do better on? And that lets me focus in on exactly where I need to start forcing myself to practice, because as humans, a lot of times we don't practice the things that we're not good at. We like to practice the things that we're already good at, just because it makes us look better. So
Travis, what are some of the shenanigans you're up to on the range besides trying to break my hip with that freaking 460 and the 4570 freaking revolver?
It depends on who I'm really teaching with. Now, Brian, just so you know, I am not a certified teacher or anything. I help people with the basics, the fundamentals, getting ready. If they want to learn something more advanced, I'll let Ben do that or recommend them to a class. But I take a lot of new shooters and things like that out and just give them the basics on sight and stuff. But one of my favorite things to do is, a lot of people have a preconceived notion that, they're going to hit the center of that target every time with a compact pistol. And the thing I like to do before they get up there is I'll tell them, load 3 rounds. You're familiar with how to do that, whether it's a revolver or a semi-automatic. And I want you to just aim and hit the target in the center. And they're like, bam, bam, bam. And their 3 shots are everywhere. And they're like, well, I don't understand. I said, now we're going to work on why you did that. And helping them through that is probably something I like more, giving them that basic, that fundamental, getting them ready to move on to that next level of the well-armed women, or a class that you might teach, Brian, or something like that, or one of John's hand-to-hand nunchuck ninja stuff. I just love giving the basics. I gotta say that, at different calibers, because everybody thinks that a 22 is the best or this is the best, and I'll bring a couple of different calibers out there for them to try, because I've got every caliber you can think of, times 3 in a lot of them. And I want them to know what a full...
You don't have 50 though yet?
Got the Beowulf. I don't have a Smith & Wesson 50. That's coming.
The BMG.
Actually, I might, but we'll talk about that later. I like what you said too about the science about caliber, the caliber training and what they do, because a lot of people don't understand the difference between shooting a 9mm versus a 45, the push versus the pop, or they want this 44 Magnum 686 3-inch barrel. Okay, let's go hunting Tyrannosaurus Rex at 5 feet, and they find out real quick that that's not something that they like. Then I can buy the gun cheap, but
it's not something they're going to train with very often.
Yeah, and I've had that. I've had people show up at the range with a 357 in polymer that they've never shot, and I'm like, "Are you gonna shoot 38s or 357?" It's a 357. Okay, let's have some fun. By the 5 rounds that they're done, their wrist is hurting.
Yeah,
and they're like, "What?" I said, "Now, if you had to use this in self-defense, you suck at it because of the recoil. You're," and they'd look at me like, I'm on crack, but I'm like, you bought this because it was a 357 Magnum. Ooh,
Clint Eastwood.
Actually, Ben has my Clint Eastwood 44. I gave him my model 29 44. He loves that thing. But
I'm still a huge fan of the dot torture. I think that is probably one of
yes.
them.
Yeah.
It's a basic drill, but will humble you so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
That does. Yeah, it does.
You can go online and just look up just qualifications for almost any federal agency. So the one we really like to run is the newest FBI qualification. And then, we just keep the targets and then say, okay, here's the date, here's the gun I was shooting, and I roll it up and put it away. Even the Ohio APATA qualification course, that's a short, easy one. I think it's only 25 rounds. It goes out to 7 yards, I believe, or I'm sorry, it goes a little further than 7 yards. But that's actually what the faster program they pushed with with the teachers. That's what they have to pass that in order to pass the FASTER program. So, and even if you get good at the APOTA course, go through and just say, okay, well, I'm going to make this harder on myself. I'm either going to take the time limit and cut it in half, or I'm going to double the distance that I'm supposed to be able to do these drills in this certain amount of time that they're recommending. And that's, and there you go. I mean, there's all different ways to do it, but just make sure you're keeping track of and working on the stuff that you aren't great at already.
Yeah, dot torture, shoot that at 3, and if you do it well, if you clean it, go out to 5 and
Move
keep
to 5,
keep backing up. And holy cow, it's you learn quick your limitations, which is good. You should know your limitations when you're doing
Absolutely.
this.
When I forgot that when you asked me, you did ask us what's our favorite drill. One of my drills is one that I did when I first started shooting, which was only about 3 years ago. I just realized that. But my teacher put up a target, and it had colors and shapes together and numbers. It was colors, numbers, and shapes. And he would tell you to shoot the blue square or shoot the green 3 or whatever. And when he first did it, it was shoot the 3 or shoot the square or shoot blue or whatever. Then the next time we did it, the next week, it was shoot the blue square or shoot the green 3 or something like that. Then the following week, he had 3 different things all together. It was like, shoot the green 3 in the square and blah, blah, blah. And after we got done with all that, he was like, do you know what I was trying to teach you there? And I'm like, how much I need to practice because I really suck. And he said, no, one of the biggest problems that people have when they're learning to shoot is they focus on one thing.
Yep.
They only focus on, okay, if you correct my grip, then that's all I think about is my grip and my stance goes to crap. Or if you tell me I'm standing wrong, I'm here doing this semi-squat the whole time and everything else falls to crap. He said, by telling you to focus and find the green 3 in the square, your mind is focused on something else, and then you fall back on your training and your instinct, which doesn't give you the opportunity to screw up that grip or screw up your stance or something like that. And I was like, that's pretty cool. But he was saying the drawback to that is you have to do that with someone that either you have been training or they have consistently trained properly, because if you don't, then you're reinforcing bad habits. Does that make sense?
You're also using subconscious thought versus conscious thought. And that's one thing that people don't realize. Like I said earlier, it's critical thinking with a handgun. We're problem solving. We have to be able to gather information and be able to retrieving the gun out of a holster, putting the sight on target and putting a trigger while gathering information at the same time, because it's not, you need to be able to do that and quickly too. So what he was trying to do was also, make you decision make while using the handgun. And you're basically pushing that trigger press, that sight alignment, and the grip, the stance, all that stuff into a subconscious plane in order to use that conscious mind to problem solve the problems that he was given to you. It's exactly what you're doing, and that's a great drill.
Oh, wow. It was awesome. It's one of my favorites. I work when I can to improve it, but it humbles you quickly. Kind of like dot torture, it humbles you quickly because you speed up that time and you realize, oh shoot,
Yeah, good stuff. So I sent out an article, and I am not, I'm probably going to get accused of being Islamophobic, and I have zero issues with people who practice their own religions, and practice what you want. Just don't threaten to cut my head off, and we're fine. So this article, basically,
so much hypocrisy.
So this professor, and Ben, I thought I had it up. I don't have it up this second, and fill in if I miss anything. So this professor basically had questions on a test, and he was a college professor, and the school made him, they were trying to make him take some of these questions off this test because it basically said that, Islam supports terrorism. Muhammad was a terrorist. So the school tries to get him banned. Some of his students raise a fuss, and of course the entire internet jumps on. Where did it go from there, Ben?
They pretty much, they said that, I'll read the questions off if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
because they did say that it was like stating that all of Islam is bad. But the question is who do terrorists strive to emulate? Muhammad. Where is terrorism encouraged in Islamic doctrine and law? The Medina verses, which is the portion of the Quran traditionally understood as having been revealed later in Muhammad's prophetic career. And terrorism is blank in Islam, and the answer is justified within the context of jihad. And the professor pretty much said, you're attacking my academic freedom, and all of my questions have been correctly sourced from the Quran, from different literature and stuff like that in Islam. So it's not like he's making this up just trying to say, hey, this is what it is. These are legit things. These are legit topics that he's putting in there.
So talking about it being a violent religion and stuff, and here comes, and people are trying to defend it, and here comes all the people, we will burn your school down,
Yeah,
we will cut your head off, we will kill your parents.
Yeah,
and
they threatened his 85-year-old parents and said they were gonna shoot up the school and burned it down. And I'm like, holy shit, it's the pot calling the kettle black. Like, you're literally proving a point right now. Like, congratulations.
Yeah. So the irony, and that's the only reason
Everybody?
I ran that, because the irony was so immense. And I'm seeing a lot of it with some of the protesters right now. Some of the irony is cracking me up. So I threw that one in there just as a.
But John, one of the things too, John, is I have several Islamic friends that have bought guns from Ben and his friends. You know, they look for something, and I tell them, go to First Strike, see Ben. You know, I don't want to say it's religion based, because every religion has been perverted through time. We all know that. We're all guilty of it. But none more radical than Islam, of course. But at the same time, you know, a lot of my friends that are of the Muslim faith, I have no problem with them having a gun. No problem whatsoever.
Listen, if you disagree with a Muslim having a gun, then you don't believe in the First and Second Amendment, because it doesn't apply just us white folk.
And kind of to piggyback off what you said too, Pops, is, you know, I do believe that a lot of the things are religious based, but it doesn't mean that everybody that practices that religion is that way.
Right.
It's like it's like political parties. You have your radicalized people. It's in every single group. You know, it's weird.
No, it's a crazy time, but I threw that one in there again, just as a, hey, look, irony, prove the point. Good luck.
Yeah, that was an interesting read. I just started chuckling. I'm like, that's
it's just so today. It is so
well
today.
found.
Yep, good stuff. So another topic I wanted to hit on. Do you guys have time for one more, probably 2 or 3 minute topic? I know it's getting late.
Absolutely.
Sure.
2 or 3 minutes with us? Are you kidding?
2 or 3 per person. So
I
this
know,
one,
dream on,
what are we
pal.
going to do with the other 2 minutes and 30 seconds, John? Cuddle?
that's what my wife says.
Oh,
shit.
oh.
And you try to mute me.
I know, right?
Ah,
Family time. Jeez.
yeah, take the kids off of this one. This one went to a whole nother level today.
Jeez.
So this one has been a hot topic, and this was a YouTube video. It popped up. Should chokeholds be banned in law enforcement? And if so, or if not, why or why not?
No,
Why?
because there are some people that the only means of subduing in a non-lethal, such as not using your weapon, you've got to use a chokehold or something to incapacitate that person. Do I think more training is needed on the use of that? Yes. Do I think the police have misused it? Absolutely. But, you know, in a situation, let's take, you know, what you and Ben had talked about working at the bar and stuff, you know, there are situations where you might get someone bigger or that's drunk or whatever that you're going to have a problem with. You chokehold somebody, I'm telling you, they're going down, and you just don't keep choking them or keep your knee on their throat or whatever. But I think that's a very non-lethal thing that the police should know, and I think everybody should know.
Marion, thought?
I agree with Travis on that.
You
After
sure?
he said that. Yeah. Because you have to have a way to, you know, like not use your gun to control these people. There's a point where, you know, you got a knee in somebody's neck. I have maybe a little issue with that.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time when you have a knee on a neck or a knee on a back or something like that, that person is already down, if that
Right.
makes sense. And you've got to get the cuffs on them right away.
Yes.
If you're alone, the chances of holding that knee down could be nil because that person's fighting. But if you've got more than one person that's helping you, more than one officer or something, you should be able to subdue that individual without maintaining a knee on the neck or the chest or something like that.
Yeah.
Brian, thoughts on that?
This comes down to training. I mean, it's just one of the biggest issues, and especially with small departments like our department here in Coshocton. If the guys are going to go take a training course, they're going to have to do it on their own dime, stuff like that. And the fact that they want to defund police and all that stuff like that, it's just going to make it harder. And then you're going to see less qualified or less trained cops out there, and they're going to make the same mistakes or worse mistakes. So when it comes to chokeholds, there's a time and place for everything. I think most officers should be to a certain level in jiu-jitsu, like a belt in jiu-jitsu before they even, are qualified from the academy, in my opinion. I mean, it's one of the best ways to do it. I don't like taking options away from police officers, because what's the other option? Is now it's pepper spray, mace, or we have other less than lethal options like tasers and stuff like that. And there are a slim subsect of human beings that are not affected by mace or OC sprays and or tasers. I think it's like something like close to 2% of the world's population isn't affected by those. So what's your other option if you run across one of those, or if they're on drugs or anything like that? If you have to go hands-on with somebody, why would you tell them they have to literally fight with one hand behind their back? I don't understand it.
Yeah. So Ben, you've done some training this. What's the difference between a blood choke and a wind choke?
Oh yeah.
This is where it becomes a problem.
I've actually I've experienced a blood choke. It is not fun. My buddy got really hammered at a bar one day, and he came up behind me and put me in a chokehold, like telling me he loved me, but he blood choked me drunk.
Yep.
And all I remember is waking up and swinging. And the blood choke is when you get that perfect V in your arm, and it goes right there on your carotid arteries, and within 3 to 4 seconds, you're out, done, like a light. And
if it's done right.
If it's done right.
Correct.
And also, if you're not smart enough, like this guy was being pretty stupid because he was drunk doing it, and if I hadn't just fell and passed out, you hold it long enough, it'll kill you.
And or even when you went limp, he could have dropped you and you could have cracked your head and had some other permanent damage too.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I had a buddy of mine, Goglin, that was there that, grabbed me, and he grabbed the guy off of me, and he didn't mean to. But it comes down to like what you were saying, Ryan, is training. When I joined the Marine Corps, the first thing that they do is they make sure that you are one belt into our Marine Corps martial arts, which is kind of a mixture of, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, everything like that. We like to be on the ground. We're ground fighters. It's what we do. And, the one thing that they taught us was our chokeholds. And you gotta know what to do, where to put it, and how to do it. I mean, I will say flat out that I think chokeholds are an amazing tool. And I say yes because of experience. And John can be there to back that up. I've used them several times at the bar. I got hit by a dude that was about 1.5 feet taller than me with a bar stool. And what happened to him?
He got choked.
Yeah. And then
he was 5 foot what?
Shut up.
Oh, stop.
That's kind of hurtful.
Yeah. And,
Yeah, listen, you guys. Don't talk to Brian about height, whatever you do.
Coming down to training too, it's pretty wild, is when I had the guy on the ground and his son came up and put me in a chokehold and I headbutted him. So
and then I had to put a chokehold on him.
Yeah, he put a chokehold on it. It's just like chokeholds all around. You subdue your
train.
subjects. That's all there is to it. You subdue your subjects.
Hey guys, listen to all the fun that y'all have. Maybe I just want to rethink that afternoon out with y'all. Y'all, I'm hearing bar stools and chokeholds and headbutt.
I'm literally the nicest person you'll ever meet, and John can tell you that. I've had people come up to me at the bar. They're just like, how do you go from, taking a dude and dwarf tossing him out the front door to just singing along to the band? And I'm like, it's a switch. It's always a switch. And, as long as you're cool to me and everybody's fine, then fine. But I mean, if you pose a threat to somebody I care about, myself or anything like that, then we have problems, which you're pretty cool.
There you go. There
And
you
the
go.
chokehold
Stay
is
away
very
from my father, though.
yeah.
That's not allowed.
The chokehold can be very effective, but nothing says you have to keep it on. You can transition out of that.
Well, you
Right.
can even let
literally-
go of pressure just to keep security and control of the subject.
Because if you let go of that and they realize, oh, I'm in bad shape, sometimes that takes enough of the fight out of them. I've literally had people in guillotines and they didn't go limp, or they're like, okay. And I held the guillotine on loosely, knowing as all I had to do was apply pressure. And
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Unless you get other guys that are your partners and they start punching you accidentally, but that's another story.
I've had to use chokehold. No, I've had to use chokehold, but it's been more like you said, bar fights or something like that. But at the same time, when you've got a chokehold on somebody, you can tell because you feel their body starting to go limp. You feel it. I mean, that dead weight feeling that's going to happen. Okay, I better lift off. Let them down easy or something.
And Brian
like
made a great point. You can't just drop them. Usually if I choke, I'm going to slowly move them to the ground. I've also transitioned them onto their back and put my knee in their solar plexus. And let me tell you, if you've not had somebody put full weight on your solar plexus with a knee, you change your attitude pretty quick. It's like, oh, I think I will stop now because that kind of sucks.
If it's an Antifa libtard, I'm dropping them down the stairs after I knock them out. I'm just going to stop and kick them down the stairs.
I wish you were more kind like me, John. I mean, like, you threw people out by their,
don't even try
off of their neck. And
don't even try it. Don't try it.
I just tried to sit there and keep the peace.
Holy cow. I'm gonna go
you
now
guys wouldn't
because-
let me bounce with you.
Well, you would get hurt now.
That's
I mean,
because-
back in the day when you were in high school, Dad was a badass in the bit. Like,
That's because
he was a badass.
So, all right. Anything else we need to cover this week? Like I said, that's why I brought Brian on. I appreciate what he does. I appreciate his attitude. I like what he's teaching. And like I said, trying to expose people like that. All right,
I really
guys.
appreciate you asking me, John.
Yeah,
I
anytime.
really do.
All right, guys. At that, I think we'll wrap it up unless anyone else has anything good for the order.